All right, welcome back to the channel. My name is Coach Jordan Hargraves. So I'm going to be reading my client's symptom list. I just started working with this lady a couple days ago. We jumped on a call yesterday just to kind of get some context about what she's going through. And whenever you hear these symptoms, I mean, it is a very, very severe set of symptoms, a very severe situation. But I told her, for me, because this is what I specialize in, this is just kind of an average case for me. Not trying to minimize how severe this is at all, but whenever all you do is work with very severe cases, to me, I'm like, "Oh, yep, 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 I see that all the time. Yep, I see this all the time." And that really encouraged her. And that's really the purpose of this video is I want to read you what she's going through with her depersonalization, realization, and her other symptoms, as well as just kind of some situations that she's in and the impact that this is having on her life, including having to delay her marriage, even delay getting married. So that way you don't feel alone, because that is one thing that is common with every client that I work with is they've convinced themselves that they're the only person that's going through this or the only person that's as severely impacted by the symptoms. And it's just not true. Okay. You are not alone. And I hope that this resonates with you, and watch this all the way through because you might miss something that really encourages you. Okay, I know attention spans in 2026 are not very good. I also know it's hard to watch these videos, and you can listen to it on 2 times speed. Maybe you already do that. So maybe right now I'm talking really, really fast. Maybe now it's on 4 times speed. Anyway, smash the like button. Help me get this out into the YouTube algorithm. I definitely am a smaller channel. I need all the help I can get. And subscribe if you'd like some encouragement on this journey. I realize now this channel's been becoming a very big resource for a lot of people. We've got doctors and therapists, and we had what was it, like a chiropractor or something refer somebody, an ER nurse in Canada referred somebody to my channel the other day. I don't even know who these people are, but apparently a lot of people are being helped, and that's such a blessing to me. Okay, so she has gone in and out of depersonalization realization for 10 years. And what's happened is she's always been able to kind of de escalate her nervous system, process some emotion, kind of calm herself, and the symptoms go away for a little while. Okay, I think up to a year at a time. But then, the symptoms always come back. But this particular season of life, she's got a family member that has cancer, which is just devastating. Um, she also, well, I just, even though obviously I'm keeping this person anonymous, I don't even want to say what the other situation is, but let's just say she's got another situation that is really challenging to deal with. And what I told her is, I think the reason why you haven't been able to get out of symptoms this time is because as time has been going by, let's use the cup example. The cup represents your body and the water represents your stress, or blueberry coffee with collagen peptides and coconut oil. Stabilize my blood sugar first thing in the morning. But anyway, but the stress, the baseline of stress just keeps going up and up and up to where now she's been walking around at like an 8 or a 9. And so because of these situations, also as time goes by, the way that neural pathways work is they get stronger and more efficient over time. So the neural connections that are putting our body into fight or flight or freeze are getting stronger and more efficient at putting our body into that response over time. And so it's like a dirt road at first, and then it's a paved road, and then it's a 2-lane highway, and then it's a 5-lane highway, and then a 10-lane highway of threat association with her sensory environment. And so that's another reason why it's getting harder and harder to de-escalate her nervous system. But then you throw on these 2, 3, 4 situations that she's dealing with that are very, very stressful life situations. Now it's just very difficult to de-escalate her nervous system. Okay. But anyway, with that being said, so she said, I've been severely depersonalized and realized I've never left my body this far before. So depersonalization realization is not an out of body experience. I want to be clear about that. If you've never experienced it before, that might be your point of reference for kind of out of body related topics, is like, you see on movies like people hovering above their body or whatever. You hear stories about that. I've never had an out of body experience before. I had this guy at my church that would talk about him having an out of body experience whenever we were kids. And he kind of, it was like he was praying and he kind of like came out of his body or whatever. And he talks about it being like such a joyous thing, this gift that God gave him. And I'm like, God, please don't ever let that happen. Like, that sounds absolutely terrifying. I don't want that to happen. And that was actually one of my fears with depersonalization, was that I would slip out of my body. And I felt like I was constantly on the verge of an out of body experience, but it felt like I was just outside of myself and a little bit to the left. And I would constantly check my hands. And if I felt connected, that would be great. But if I felt disconnected and out of body, I would go, oh, and I would panic and I'd try to get away from it. It showed up in looking in the mirror. I literally felt like it was me, but it wasn't me. It's like, that's another reason why these symptoms are so debilitating and people don't get help, is because they go to a therapist or a doctor or look online and they just don't even know what to say. Like, there are definitely common analogies that people use. I feel like there's a wall of glass between me and reality with derealization. I feel like I'm watching myself on a video camera with depersonalization. But a lot of people don't have those analogies. They just don't come up with it. And so they're like, I just don't feel like myself, or um, I just feel weird. I feel off. I feel ungrounded, and it's like, if you're, let's say, a licensed mental professional and you're using the DSM-5 to diagnose, it's like, what do you do with that? Right. And so I think a lot of people get misdiagnosed, actually, because of their inability to explain these symptoms that are literally impossible to explain. And so it's really just not a good situation with that. But anyway, so she said, I've never left my body this far. So what she means is, I've never felt so out of body. Again, not to the point where she's like up here or anything like that, but she basically feels more out of body than she's ever felt. And that's because there's more trauma in her body than has ever been there before. So we typically think of trauma and we think a past event, right? Loss of a loved one, car accident, natural disaster, going off to war. This is an antiquated 20th century understanding of trauma. A 21st century understanding of trauma would say that trauma is actually a state of overwhelming stress in the brain, body, and nervous system. According to the polyvagal theory understanding of the nervous system, developed by Dr. Stephen Porges, a neuroscientist, when our brain perceives threat or there's an actual threat, the very first thing that we look to calm us down is other people. If that doesn't work, then we go into fight or flight response. And if that doesn't work and our nervous system feels too trapped, too overwhelmed to fight or flee, then we go into the most ancient defense mechanism, which is the freeze response. It's also called a trauma response. That's whenever there starts to be all kinds of changes that are designed to reduce the pain of potentially being eaten by a lion or some sort of apex predator. So this is why people feel out of body. It's technically a series of brain structures that Dr. Bessel van der Kolk calls the mohawk of self-awareness. So it's actually a series of brain structures that resemble a mohawk haircut that are responsible for you feeling connected to your body, self, and environment, and they start to shut down. Why? Well, because it's your brain trying to dissociate or separate you, because if you're being eaten by a lion and you feel out of body or everything feels fake and dreamlike, you're not going to feel it as much. It's really nature's last gift. If you're going to be eaten by the lion, you might as well not feel it. But whenever there is no lion eating you, the symptoms are absolutely terrifying and you don't appreciate them, even though it's your brain trying to help you. And typically people become obsessed with the symptoms and their brain assigns all of these fears to the symptoms. What if I'm going crazy? What if my brain's broken? What if I'm becoming psychotic? What if I'm becoming schizophrenic? What if this is permanent and this is my life forever? Your brain's catastrophizing. And this is one reason also why non-human mammals can go in and out of these symptoms all the time and they don't stay stuck, but we sometimes do get stuck, is because us, unlike non-human mammals, have the ability to attach fear to the safe symptoms of fight, flight, freeze, and we end up getting traumatized by the trauma symptoms, okay? But anyway, depersonalization and derealization are like a circuit breaker in a house. They're there to create disconnection. And so if you feel super out of body, that's not a reflection that we need to fix depersonalization. Or if everything feels fake and dreamlike, it just feels like the fog, the glass wall between you and reality is just getting thicker and thicker and thicker. That's a check engine light. That's pointing to the real problem, which is that we need to do a lot of work underneath the hood, the transmission, the engine. I'm not a car person. I put gas in the car and windshield wiper fluid, and that is about the extent of my car abilities. But anyway, if you see a check engine light, you would never think, oh, okay, wow, I got to get rid of this check engine light. Why? Well, because we've been educated on why that happens. But with depersonalization realization, the difference between them and a check engine light is a check engine light isn't the most terrifying thing that you've ever gone through. And so what ends up happening is we kind of use deductive reasoning. Well, if this is the most terrifying thing that I've ever been through, this must be the root issue. And you're spending all of your time trying to get rid of symptoms that are biologically correct when your nervous system is overwhelmed. And so this is why education is so important. If you're trying to get rid of DPDR, you're focusing on an apple on an apple tree instead of uprooting the tree itself. The apple represents the symptoms. It's appropriate for there to be apples if it's an apple tree. It's appropriate for there to be depersonalization realization if your nervous system is overwhelmed. So let's not try to get rid of those symptoms. Let's change the state of the body that is producing those symptoms. And that's what I do with people. That's what I had to do to recover myself, is we have to go through the process of, number one, getting back in your body, which is called interoception, experiencing your embodied self. And you're very separated from your body. Even if there's no depersonalization, even if it's just derealization, you find you're living in your head all the time, daydreaming, thinking about the past, thinking about the future. Maybe you're obsessed with existence or obsessed with health. A lot of these things are dissociative outlets. It's a way to separate from the pain of being in your body. And so we have to get you back in your body. And then we have to start to release the tension, the adrenaline, the emotion from the body. We also have to start to face the things that you're currently avoiding, because whatever you avoid, your brain assumes is a lion trying to eat you, whether that's places you're avoiding, whether that's even avoiding the symptoms. We need to invite them in. And then, of course, avoiding your own body. We need to start to experience your body and relax into your body as well. Okay. And if you want some tips for doing that, go to the first pinned comment or the description and watch my 5 shifts masterclass, where I show you the 5 shifts that you need to make to break free of these symptoms. And there's also an application to work with me and my team in my Rise program, where people are breaking free from these symptoms every single day. So anyway, with that being said, she's experiencing severe DPDR. She said it's been an absolute hell. And she said she feels like she is trapped inside of her own body. She said, I feel like my body is a cage I can't escape from. That is absolutely a perfect description of people that have a lot of trauma in their body. The trauma is that their body is constantly going into fight, flight, freeze response. See, we think, again, about trauma being about what happened in the past, and it is connected to the past, but it's more about what's left over from these painful past experiences, which are sensory triggers that are signaling to your nervous system that there's a threat, and your body starts to prepare as if there's a threat. That's what the symptoms are about. They are appropriate autonomic defense mechanisms for if there was a threat, but there is no threat. See, that's the problem, is you're in the right state, just at the wrong time. Your body is doing what it should do if there was a lion present, but there is no lion present. But your brain thinks that there is, because you're seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, feeling things that are similar to painful things from your past, and it's creating this confusion in your nervous system. But anyway, she says, I feel like I literally died and there's nobody home. She also says, with derealization, I feel like I'm in another dimension. So that's what derealization feels like. I would describe it, because I went through it 2 years, 24/7, 5 years off and on. I would describe it like if you've ever seen the movie Space Jam, and Michael Jordan is golfing and he kind of gets sucked into a golf hole and he goes into Looney Tune land. And it felt like I was living in a cartoon world. Okay. It was like I was in a movie theater watching my life unfold before my eyes, but everything was happening in slow motion. The colors and sounds were very kind of dulled and muted, and it was like I was in an alternate reality. But I knew that things were off. Okay, so reality testing was intact, and that's one of the key differences between this and psychosis or schizophrenia. Is like, things are off, right? But everything feels foreign. It feels unfamiliar, and it really, really, really bothers you. And so also, she said DPDR forced her to cancel her wedding. She says, I can't, and she actually isn't even living with her partner anymore, because the symptoms are so severe, they've had to separate. And she also is unable to take care of her own daughter. That's how severe this is. And she's just devastated. It's like she had all these plans, and the symptoms have just wrecked that. But that's also why I'm so excited about her case, because that's what post-traumatic growth is about. I cannot tell you how many clients that I've worked with where they were able to get married whenever they previously couldn't because of symptoms, or they were able to have kids and start a family whenever the symptoms were putting that on hold, or maybe finding love, right? They couldn't do that because of the symptoms. And that is honestly what keeps me doing this. I would say the only fun part of my job at this point is getting to work with such amazing people. The people that go through these symptoms, there's something about suffering that just makes you so kind and appreciative, and just it's hard to explain, but the gratitude that these people have, and the kindness despite their suffering, just it's just so inspiring. I get to work with some of the most amazing, kind people that you'd ever meet, but that's awesome. And whenever people start getting glimmers again, whenever they start to feel normal again, it's just such a beautiful moment. I mean, the last couple days, I mean, every day people are posting in my program about, starting to see results, and um, it's just so inspiring. And of course, whenever people are able to achieve these massive things that were on their bucket list, or things that were put on hold, like their career, relationships, whatever it is, traveling, being able to be in the present moment with their friends and family, like that's what I live for. That's what fills me with enough purpose to keep doing this, because until we get to those moments of feeling normal again, it is so up and down. And sometimes it takes people months just to have a glimmer of feeling normal. Sometimes it happens within days. It just depends on each case, but that's what makes it all worth it. So also, she's had to move back in with her parents. She said, I'm staying on my parents' couch. So I want you to just imagine that, okay? Let this make you not feel alone if you're in a similar situation, or just, I hope this encourages you just in general. But she's literally not able to take care of her own daughter right now. She's living with her parents, staying on the couch, had to cancel her wedding. And she's also going in and out of the emergency room. And she also told me that she was in a psych ward not long ago, and she goes to the doctor or the ER because her symptoms are so bad. And I want to read the quote. She said, I woke up hysterical because I couldn't explain how terrifying the DPDR was. It was the worst that she's ever experienced. And she was running around the house screaming and crying. And so, I think her mom took her to the ER. And she said, unfortunately, I don't feel like the hospital helps me. Um, Sometimes they're like, what are you talking about? And she said, I do sound like I'm off the wall. So the doctors will do the tests, they'll do the CT scans, they'll do the blood work, they'll do everything. I don't know if she's got any neurological examinations done, but they're like, there's nothing wrong. And it's so frustrating whenever you're dealing with something that is more terrifying than you've ever experienced in your entire life, but all the tests are coming back normal. And you're trying to explain it to your friends and family, like, no, 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 you don't understand. Like I literally feel like death. And think about it. I mean, DPDR and the associated symptoms that come with that as well are technically your body preparing for death. It is part of the freeze response. It's literally called feigned death. It's what your body does to convey to a predator that you're dead, so it hopefully loses interest and walks away, since predators prioritize prey that puts up a fight. But just in case the lion doesn't walk away, if you're being eaten, then you won't feel as bad because you're so disconnected. So there's a reason that you describe it as I feel like death, but on the surface, people look at you and they're like, oh, well, everything looks normal. And you went to the doctor. I mean, they can't find anything. Maybe this is all in your head. I'm telling you, if you are the loved one of somebody who's going through this, I want to encourage you to not accidentally minimize what they're going through. I can tell you, as a former sufferer and somebody who's been going through this, helping people for 8 years, that these symptoms are the most terrifying, debilitating thing that most people will ever go through in their entire life. And the last thing that they need is somebody accidentally minimizing this or not taking it seriously. Okay. It feels like death. And you want somebody to understand you. That's actually the first thing that we look to help calm ourselves down, is somebody to validate our experience, or other people. But it just seems like nobody gets it. And so I get it, and there are a lot of people out there who do get it. You are not alone in this. I know what it feels like. I know how debilitating it is, and I believe that you can break free of this, okay? With that being said, She's also terrified to leave the house. She said, I was terrified to leave the house for so many weeks. She is starting to get out of the house, which I'm so proud of her for that. This is even right before she started working with me. She also is having severe light sensitivity. She said, I wake up and everything's too bright. That was me whenever I was going through the symptoms. It was like, and this is my clients all the time. I remember just looking into my phone felt like looking into the sun. And I had to turn everything to like 0% brightness or 0% contrast. I was going through symptoms and I was working at a call center and I had to turn my screen down to like almost nothing to where I could barely see it. But if I didn't do that, my eyes would start watering and I'd get headaches. And everybody who would walk by at this call center, they would be like, how do you even see that? What's going on? And I'd be like, oh, my eyes are light sensitive. It was so frustrating. And especially fluorescent lights. So whether it's, Walmart, Walgreens, things like that, absolutely debilitating. And this is my clients all the time. And eye floaters, static dots, black dots, colored dots, double vision, blurred vision. There's all kinds of visual issues because whenever your body goes into fight or flight response, your pupils dilate and you're able to see a lot more, and your eyes also become a lot more sensitive. And so it creates all kinds of visual issues. She's also, last one, and we're almost done. She's also experiencing panic in the morning. So she says, when I wake up in the morning, I'm in panic attacks 24/7. So I hope that has encouraged you. And this is literally just an average case for me. And I'm not happy about that necessarily because, like I said, I mean, this job is like, it's very, very, very difficult. And it is definitely something that I feel like I'm called to do. But like, I tell people all the time, like, I wish that I was an anxiety coach. Anxiety is hard. Don't get me wrong. And most of my clients, I would say 95 to 98% of them have anxiety too. But it's a lot easier to de-escalate somebody's nervous system out of fight or flight response only than if they're in the freeze response, because, and especially if they've been in the freeze response for many years. And so, but what I will say though is regardless, this is what I specialize in. I am on the front lines every day helping people that are in these situations and being their hope and guiding them through this. And that's one reason why I have to invest so much time every day in self-care. Like I have to have such strict boundaries, good sleep, hydration, nutrition, exercise, lots of self-regulation. I have a Theragun. I've got these little power boot things that they're like leg compression things for relaxation. I've got tons of relaxation gadgets. I do cold plunges. I do hot tub. I do a lot of self-care and boundaries so that I can do this. But anyway, again, I'm more fulfilled than I've ever been in life. I'm thankful that I get to do this. But yeah, this is literally just an average case for me. And so I hope that encouraged you. All right, with that being said, go ahead and smash the like button. Again, help me get this out into the algorithm. That would really be awesome if you want to, and if you got something out of this. And again, subscribe, join this family if you're needing some encouragement. If you're having trouble finding people that understand you, I'm going to be doing videos pretty much every day, at least Monday through Friday, just kind of talking about these things and sharing results that people are seeing too. And that's it. Hope you have a good day. And again, if you want to apply to work with me and my team, as well as get the free 5 Shifts Masterclass to break free of this, there's a link in the first pinned comment, as well as the description. All right, talk to you soon.